To meddle in U.S. elections is far from over. After 2 years of looking into the issue, the Senate Intelligence Committee released an 85-page report yesterday. It outlines a threat posed by Russia and other actors. CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazis read through the report. She joins us now from Washington. So, Olivia, previous reports have stated that Russia did interfere, obviously, in 2016. They're going to try to do it again in 2020. What's new in this report?
Right. Well, this was always intended to be a sort of final, seminal, bipartisan product that's been 2.5 years in the making. So it not only reconstructs some of what we know about the events surrounding the 2016 election, but it makes some observations about what might happen from here. And I would say there were kind of three main takeaways. One, it reinforced pretty unequivocally, and again on a bipartisan basis, that Russia did interfere in the 2016 election, and it did so with the design of boosting candidate Trump's chances of winning and damaging Secretary Clinton's. It also did that with the knowledge and the direction and at the direction of the highest echelons of the Russian government, means pretty explicitly Vladimir Putin. There's in fact a striking line in the report that says President Putin denies any knowledge of the IRA's trolling operation. The committee finds this denial to be false. So don't get any more clear than that. Second, they were sophisticated, they were fast-moving, they were far-reaching and very successful in exploiting the existing divisions in the U.S. Above all, that means racial tensions. The report noted that race and related issues were by far the preferred target, even though other issues like the Second Amendment were also used as fodder. And then third, the Russians didn't cut it out after the 2016 election. Their activity intensified in the weeks and months after it, and some of it still persists today. Nobody expects that Russia or any other actor, because now we know that countries like China, Iran, and even North Korea are increasingly active in this space. Nobody expects that any of those powers are going to back down as the 2020 election approaches. Those are all going to ramp up.
Do we have a sense of what platforms might be exploited in 2020, what tactics Russia and other state or non-state actors might use?
Yes. So this was one of the most fascinating sections of the report, I think. It says that detecting those kinds of influence operations of the kind that Russia perpetrated is going to become all the more difficult as technologies improve. Propaganda is going to just look more realistic and convincing. Deep fakes, that video or audio that's manipulated to look convincing, but it's not actually real or is at least misleading. That's one example of that. Micro-targeting, meaning reaching out to specific individuals with tailored messaging, is another likely tactic that the report raised. You know, these bot-driven automated accounts are likely to become more sophisticated and harder to detect. And then, as you point out, there's a move to new platforms. So while we know very well now about Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and what targets they were in 2016, the report says that now operatives are moving to messaging apps like WhatsApp, Telegram, WeChat. And then finally, there's this possibility that they'll move beyond elections specifically, that they'll use these same tactics to commit financial fraud, to manipulate advertisements. The report notes that they may even push counterfeit prescription drugs. So the point here is that all of these tactics are almost certain to evolve and become more challenging, and of course to be used by operatives beyond just Russia.
And we know there's a number of bills that have been proposed to protect the elections, but did this committee offer any specific recommendations?
They did, and again, this is a bipartisan report, so it's not going really one way or the other. It's going down the middle. Some of the legislation it recommended that Congress consider has to do with disclosing the sources of online political advertisements. There's been a bill introduced that would do just that. It also recommended that Congress consider whether there's a way to formalize the relationship between social media companies and other government agencies like DHS and FBI. You know, we should note that while that information sharing is by all accounts pretty well improved, the committee said there's still room for more improvement in both directions. Social media companies need to tell the government what they see happening and vice versa. It also has a series of recommendations for the executive branch in particular, including that it reinforce with the public the danger of potential interference in 2020.
We know Russian President Vladimir Putin was asked last week, actually, point blank, if his country was going to meddle in 2020. I want to play for you what he had to say.
Is Russia, as Robert Mueller alleged, attempting to influence the 2020 elections in the United States?
I'll tell you secretly, yes, we will indeed do that, so we could cheer you all up properly. But don't tell anybody, okay?
All right, he dismissed it as a total joke. You know, in the past, President Trump has downplayed Russia's role in the 2016 election. Is that still the White House's position, even in spite of this report?
I mean, the president himself has consistently cast doubt on whether Russia did intervene at all in 2016, and certainly that they intervened to his own benefit, even though that has been and continues to be a core conclusion of the intelligence community and now has been reinforced several times by this bipartisan committee. I think the White House's line on this is that the Trump administration has made election security in general a priority, and that is true. A lot of the agencies who are involved in this have been mobilized to work together. You see law enforcement and intelligence agencies, DHS, FBI, NSA, ODNI, all of them are standing up or have stood up these discrete specific bodies to raise awareness, to share information, to defend against any potential threats. That includes taking offensive action if necessary. So it's not clear that this report is, in particular, what it will take to convince the president of what exactly happened in 2016. But, to the administration's credit, there are indications that the right preparations are being made for a robust response ahead of 2020.
Olivia Gazis, thank you very much, Olivia, for joining us.
Thanks, Rena.